The story is really dope. Uh,
And he's on.
oh,
3, 2, 1. Sorry, I'm
Yep.
eating.
That's what I should have done.
Okay. How's everyone this morning?
in pain.
In pain. Oh, yeah?
Hunger
What happened?
pain.
How was your trip to Seattle? Or not to Seattle, to Portland?
It was fantastic. I was walking from one brewery to the next,
Uh
and
huh.
yes, I didn't see a step. I didn't see a curb. I was walking, and I took a step up that curb, not knowing it was there, and I guess I pinched a nerve right in the small of my back, and
Oh, no.
yeah. I mean, now I was like, I'm 26. I'm like, you know what? It shouldn't hurt for that long, but it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt for like 3 or 4 days, and it's been
Can you hear
hurting.
that, or do I need to mute myself?
I can hear you if you want
I'm
to. Yeah, you can
I'm
mute
in the
yourself if you
helicopter.
want.
No, there was a helicopter flying overhead.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm trying to like just take it easy on my back.
Yes, do so. I've had back problems my entire life, and it's been really bad. Uh, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was really bad. And so far, it's been better. But yeah, back trouble can, got to be careful about that because that'll follow you around for the rest of your life. So take
Mm-hmm.
care of your back.
Yeah.
Take care of your back.
Well, my friends are calling me old, like, cause I was like, oh, it's gonna hurt in the morning, and they're like, what? This you stop acting so old. I'm like, no, dude, this one's gonna hurt. I already know.
Yeah, let them call you old, man. When you do get old, you won't regret it. I'm telling
And
you,
you know what?
man.
I am old. I'm old at heart.
All right. This morning I'm going to talk about probably the number one most important thing in the ethics of graphic design, actually in the ethics of business, all businesses, and that's money. Money, money, money. So let's kind of jump right into it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go straight over to my notes here, and you can read along with me. But I want to talk about pricing, pricing in design. And this is something that most of us as designers really don't know don't know the first thing about, what we're worth, what a design is worth, what we should charge, what it means to a company, the design that we do, all kind of factors. And the assignment for Sunday is I want you to watch a video that I've posted on the quizzes section. And I don't know if I posted that yet or not, but I will. I'll double check that. It's a video from the future, Christo, and he talks about pricing, how to price your work. It is his opinion and strategy, although many designers believe in this same strategy of coming up with a price for what you do for clients. It is maybe something that you're not expecting. Um, when you're first starting out, it's kind of like that's the big question. How much do I charge for this? And I don't know how many times I've been asked that question. And unfortunately, it's not, kind of like if you're selling a product. The pricing of a product, a cup, a mouse, a cell phone, whatever, is something that is based on, manufacturing costs, overhead costs, profit margins, the basic things that factor into the price of an object. Creativity is not necessarily something that people feel that they should pay for. Like, my phone, okay? I mean, it took a lot of creative genius to come up with the features of that phone, but is that part of the price? As a consumer, I don't think we think of it that way. I don't think we think that, gee, the geniuses that came up with these ideas, I got to pay for it. I think we look at it more as, an object. How much did that cost this company to make? We understand overhead and manufacturing costs and all of the, other intangibles. But creativity is something that, I don't know if you've thought, well, gee, I got to pay an extra, $50 for this based on creativity, the creativity of the designers. So that kind of goes against us. And yet, that's a huge part of what we provide as a service is our creative mind and our creative solutions. So when we design something like a logo or whatever, a lot of that cost is in that creativity. And yet to say that to a client and saying, well, this is what you're paying for, it's kind of like, no, I'm not going to pay for that. I mean, they think of, unfortunately, a lot of times they think of a logo as a product. You're going to design something on a piece of paper or on your computer and you're going to send it to me, and that's what I'm paying for. So early on in my career, I was taught and told many times that what we have to do constantly in this field is to educate our clients into what our business is. So let me start here at the how much question. And this is going to be something that you're going to get immediately from anyone that asks you to do work for them, is going to say, Ruben, how much is this going to cost? What do you think? Come on, give me a ballpark. I want you to do a logo for me. What is it going to cost? Right? And they expect some kind of answer. Just like you would say, look, that Samsung, S12 or S21 or whatever it is now, how much does that cost? How much is that going to cost? And I expect you to tell me how much the price is of that unit. But when it comes time for a logo, they kind of have that same mentality. And that is something that you really can't answer. You can't answer because there's too many factors involved in what you have to do to produce that. There's too many intangibles. There's too many, things that you're going to go through that you really can't just ballpark right off the bat. So my, first boss always told me the answer is it could be $5 or it could be $5,000 or it could be $5 million. How's that for an answer? Okay. And the reaction that you'll usually get is one of like, wait, I don't understand. What are you telling me? I don't get it. I mean, come on, $50, $100, And so you have to proceed to explain to them what is involved in designing a logo. And that's what I kind of want to go over. And I'm going to use a logo as an example. Not that it's the only thing that we do as graphic designers by any means, but as a way of explaining design and explaining, what goes into what we do. Now, in the end, a lot of it is labor. Okay, we provide a service just like anybody else, a plumber, an electrician, a lawyer, a doctor. I mean, we're paying for their time, and their time is being billed by the hour. I mean, a lawyer, they charge $400 an hour or whatever, $100 an hour, $200 an hour. But that's the price that they've put on their service as far as what they're worth, or what the company that they're working for wants to bill them out for. And that hourly rate includes many, many things. It includes not only their time, but it includes, all of these other things that they do. Administrative costs, overhead costs, what they have to pay that lawyer, etc. So One of the basically what it is it's an hourly rate. Okay. But I don't want you to think of design as an hourly rate, especially if someone asks you, how much do you charge an hour? Okay. That's none of their business. Okay. Really. That is not a question that you should answer. Okay. If someone asks me what is my hourly rate, I say, well, that's none of your business, really. I mean, as politely as you can possibly say. What you can say, though, is just simply, that's not how I charge. Okay, so let me explain what goes into the cost of this, or what your fees and cost is going to be. But for you, in estimating your cost, you have to estimate an hourly rate. Okay, so number one, you have to put an hourly rate on your service for you only. Okay, only you know that, or your company, or your partners, or whoever works with you. Okay, so the first thing that, and this all falls under ethics only because it is ethical for you to tell a client the basis of what your fees are. Especially, it's even more ethical for us because we're dealing with creative. Okay, and that's something that they don't understand. And when a client doesn't understand how you charge, it's your ethical responsibility to explain that to them, okay, as best you can. You can't just leave them in the dark and just say, well, I know you don't understand this, but this is the way we do things here. Mm-hmm. Okay? So let me just highlight some of the things that will go into that cost and that estimate. And number one is let's just talk about what everybody has to accommodate in any kind of business transaction, and that is the time it's going to take us to interact with you. Client contact, we call that, or meetings. Okay, so I have meet and discuss. Now, if you went to a lawyer, lawyers will always say that the first consultation is free. In fact, many services are like that. They'll come out and they'll estimate something for free. Sometimes companies will charge you for that estimate. Like we had a water heater put in, and the guy said, yeah, I'll come out and take a look at it, and I'll diagnose your problem, but it's going to cost you $70. Okay, so that's something that, for the most part, we will accommodate as a free consultation. However, you have to go to that attorney's office, right? That attorney is not going to drive out to Rancho Cucamonga and meet with you in your house. If that's the case, they're going to charge you. And that's why plumbers charge you the $70, is because it's a fee for gas and overhead of their truck to come out to your place. So you are going to, give a free consultation if your client comes to you. Now, if you have to go out to your client, then you can legitimately charge a fee. If they have any trouble with that, tell them, give them the plumber, okay, analogy. Okay. I don't know why I always use plumbers, but anyway.
Hidden
like
desire.
Yes. And so this is where these forms come in, that I had you download. And, the estimate form, a quote, a contract. Okay, we need to establish this before we start any kind of work. We need to get the money end of it understood and signed, and confirmed. Okay, and that is the number one ethical thing that you can do. If you do not do that, okay, if you are not discussing that and your client is fully aware of how much this job is going to cost, or an estimate at least of how much this job is going to cost, then that is your mistake. Okay, you are an unethical graphic designer. Think of it that way. Okay, and yet I don't know how many instances of transactions that's happened, to designers. They just don't talk about money because they don't want to. Okay, but hopefully by the end of this lecture, you will want to do this. Okay, you will not only see a need to do this, but you will literally want to do this for your own sake. Okay, so some of the things that we first talk about. First of all, you have to tell the client that, you know, first of all, I cannot estimate this. I cannot ballpark this until I know what this job is about. I need to know the details of this job. I need to know many, many things about this that we need to sit down and discuss in detail before I can tell you how much this is going to cost. And give them the car auto mechanic scenario. You know, you can't just drive into an auto mechanic and say, look, my car doesn't run. How much is it going to cost? Right? I mean, that's a ridiculous question. So you have to drive it in, they have to look at it, they have to diagnose the problem, do tests, and then they come back to you with a call and they say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost to fix. We found the problem, blah, blah, blah. And the same is true with you. You have to sit down and say, okay, look, you want this logo. You want a logo, but you know, what is it? What is it supposed to say? What is it supposed to, I mean, we need to talk about this. I mean, what is your company? I need to know the background of the history of your company. I need to know how many ideas you want. I mean, you know, if I show you a logo and you go, well, I don't like it, you know, I mean, then I got to go back and redo it. And how many times is that going to happen? I mean, you know, I don't know. So we need to discuss these things now. We need to discuss how many ideas I'm going to present to you. What happens if you don't like them? What am I going to do? You know, are there going to be additional fees, charges, whatever? Another thing you have to know is, when do you want this? Okay, I need to know time frames. I mean, do you want this next week, or do you want this next month, or what? And that has everything to do with cost. I mean, go anywhere, right? There's an old saying in design that says, you know, you get three choices. You know, you could either have it, you know, if you want it fast, okay, it ain't going to be cheap. If you want it cheap, it ain't going to be fast. Okay? And if you want it cheap and fast, it's going to be really expensive. I mean, if you want it cheap and fast, okay, it's going to take a lot of time. Okay? Because I'm not going to do anything fast for cheap. So, you know, some people have that literally hanging on their office wall. And that's a saying that, you know, has always been. You could look that up. But, okay, so we need to know timeframes. We need to know how many ideas. We need to know how much time we are going to have to spend on this in many areas. And I'm going to go over that at the bottom here. And as far as time estimation, these are things that we have to do internally to figure out this question here, how much. But in talking with your client, we need to know what type of job it is, this logo, where is it going to go on, how is it going to be applied, is it going to be, obviously it's going to be applied on the web, it's probably going to be applied to printed things on paper. We need to know what the applications of that printing is going to occur on. Is it going to be in vinyl? Is it going to be on embroidered? Is it going to be printed on paper, on posters, on trash cans, on cocktail napkins, whatever? I mean, I need a whole list of the applications of this logo as far as you're concerned, as far as you know. Because that has everything to do with how I'm going to design this. And see, clients don't understand this. They don't, you know, they just think that you're going to give them a piece of art and how much does that cost? Now, I'm not saying every client. I mean, there's many clients that are very educated in design and know exactly how much goes into it and all of that. Like the Berry Lane, okay, the Berry Lane. And if you are going to need to farm anything out in this project, for instance, you know, you need an illustration and you're not an illustrator and you need to hire one. How much is that going to be? I need to talk to the illustrator first, right? And I need to know how much they're going to charge. And then I'm going to charge whatever they charge plus 20%. And that's going to be part of my overall fee to you. So, I mean, you don't have to tell them that, but, you know, don't tell them what your markup is. There's none of their business. But you have to, you know, think about those things. Vendor contact. You know, how many vendors are going to be involved in this project? Are you going to have to hire other people to do things? But and believe me, once you just throw some of these things out, they will understand that, wow, I can't ballpark this until we talk. Okay. And so the idea is to get all this information from your client and then go back to your office and studio and really write up an estimate. Okay, write up an estimate as accurately as you possibly can, estimating time, estimating costs of vendors and all this stuff, and then writing it out in a formal contract or estimate confirmation or whatever you want to call it, a quote, on your letterhead, and then proposing that and sending that to them and emailing it to them or whatever, and having them look at it and then having another discussion in terms of, of whether that's, they agree to that or not. And when they do, you have them sign it. And we have many ways to sign formal contracts online. So do so. Have them do that. And then you can start work. And you could start it legitimately. You can start it with the feeling that this has been approved, and we've already discussed the money end of it, so now I'm going to start working. Okay, and that's the way we always want to start work. We always want to start with the feeling that our client understands the cost of this, because when the client doesn't understand how much it's going to cost, that is just disaster waiting to happen. Okay, I'll tell you, every single time, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be disaster. And you're the one that is going to be at the short end of the stick. A payment schedule is something that needs to happen. Now, this all depends, and it's very difficult when you're doing work for the first time for the first client, when you don't have a lot of experience, when you don't have a track record of doing business. It's very difficult to get this initial deposit. Any business, though, will always ask you for one, and you will pay it. Otherwise, they will say, okay, see you later, buddy. Okay. We got recently our entire kitchen, not our entire kitchen remodel, but we got new countertops. We got beautiful quartz countertops on our kitchen. And we used a very reputable company out in Upland, and it was recommended by a good friend of mine. And they were very professional. They came out, they estimated it, they emailed me the estimate, they asked for a deposit, we paid it, they came out, they did the work, and we were very happy with it. And it went very smoothly. And that is exactly the way you do business as a graphic designer. There is absolutely no difference. Now, whether you get that initial deposit or not, that might be a tough kind of call, because they might look at you and say, well, wait a minute, I've never done business with you. I don't see any kind of legitimacy to your business outside of you say you are legitimate. I want to see something before I give you anything. I mean, I want to see what you're doing. And so that's where watermarking your work comes in. So if you can't get that initial deposit and they want to see a design, then you watermark the crap out of it and make sure that there is no way that they can take that. Now, at that point, I would seriously ask for a payment. Okay, once they laid eyes on it, even though it's watermarked to the point where they can't use it physically, they did see it. And that means that they have seen the creative of that. You did this fox, and it's really cool, and it's in a circle, and it's, whatever. And what prevents them from, saying, I don't like it, and then, having their, the guy having his son who knows Photoshop make it up on his computer. Right? We don't know that. And once you lay eyes on something, I mean, you've seen it. But that's true of anything, right? We can go online and look at anything we want and copy it. Not copy it, but make a variation of it, right? So ideas cannot be copywritten. And we talked about that in the last class, that you can't have an idea and say that it's your own. Even though you make it up, it's the property itself that you own. So it's that logo, but it's not the idea of a fox in a circle. I mean, anyone can do that. So you can't protect that. But at this point, I would make a strong case for a payment upon viewing your work. And if they still insist on not paying you at that point, then, and you're still okay with that. And I can understand where you might still be okay with that. And I've done that too, to the point where I say, okay, at the end of this job, once you're satisfied, then I'll demand payment. But definitely demand payment once you release the work. And by releasing the work, what I usually do is tell them that I take the watermark off. And now they have a copy. And you can also protect that copy in other ways, but they own it. Now, another thing you're charging for really is usage rights, especially when it comes to logos. Many designers, just like musicians and all other creatives, will charge you for usage, meaning that the price that I'm charging you is based on using it in a certain way. Now, if you want to take that and acquire full usage rights, meaning that you can take this logo I designed for you and use it in any way you see you want to, then that costs extra as far as the initial cost of this logo. And most clients will want that. In fact, I would want that if I'm paying for it. I don't want some designer kind of saying, hey, well, you can use it for this, but you can't use it for that. Like royalty payments. I don't want to get into royalty payments with a designer. I want full usage rights. Okay, but they have to understand that full usage rights is part of the cost of your job, of what you're charging. So, but in the end, final delivery, full payment if you haven't gotten partial payment in between. And I'm serious about that, as serious as a heart attack, as they say, because, man, if you release work and you have not gotten paid for it, then there's a high probability that you'll get stiffed on the job. Or let's put it this way, there's a high probability that could happen. Okay. So you're kind of like a drug dealer at that point. It's like, okay, it's like the money, the goods, the money, the goods, And, I don't think it has to go that far, but you have to surely, I would be very suspect with doing business with that client again if that even came up. Okay. All right. So this is where signed contracts. Now, signed contracts are not threats. They're not any, there's no, you should not make that, sound like it's, to protect me in court in case, I have to sue you. No, signed contracts, change orders, invoices, they're all standard operating procedure, and everybody does it. So your client will, not even blink an eye, shouldn't, when you present them with these forms. And again, in the beginning, this is exactly, this is what I was talking about of being an ethical business, is you need these forms, right, to substantiate your business. So this way, it really cuts through all the BS in terms of, people trying to take advantage of you at the beginning. They're not going to even mess with you if you conduct business the way it should be conducted. Okay, so we haven't talked about the actual how to estimate your time. And I want to bring up a lot of things that are going to occur in a job that we don't necessarily think about in terms of estimating our time. Meetings and contact. Okay, now this includes everything from driving out to the client's facility to meeting them at Starbucks for a cup of coffee and a business discussion, showing them ideas, um, talking to them on the telephone, texting them, emailing them, however, whatever time you are putting into contacting your client is stuff that you are logging in terms of time. Okay, remember this is all based on time. And so much time is absorbed in this right here. And so many beginners do not charge for this. And you will see that if someone came up to you and say, well, how many hours is it going to take you to do this? And you say, well, it should take me 5 hours, right? Watch how, at the end of the job, it took you 25 hours to do this. And yet you might have only spent 5 hours actually doing it. Where did all the other time go to? Okay, here's where it went to. Meetings, research, coming up with ideas, printing stuff out on your printer and finding out that your printer ran out of ink and you had to go down to Staples and buy more ink. Emailing things. We have to take into consideration our overhead costs and our the things that can go wrong. And that's why we pad estimates. And we're not being unethical by doing this. What we're doing is we're estimating the things that can go wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you cut your price and make it cheaper at the end, that's fine. That's up to you. But you have to consider these things. Research. How much are we researching our client's problem? Do we need to educate ourselves about, what a fox looks like since we're doing a logo? Do we need to go in and look at other fox logos and stylize ours based on that? I mean, how much time are we spending on that? Okay. A lot of times it's hard to know. And then the ideation of it. Ideation is just the creation of ideas, coming up with different versions of it and different ways the fox can look. And maybe it's not even a fox, maybe it's a wolf or whatever. Okay? But ideation is creativity. That's what makes us unique from hiring somebody else, is that we do that and it's our, experience and our style and whatever that creates that idea. What's involved in that idea? Well, there could be typography involved. And maybe we have to go research fonts and see what font works best with this logo. And that can take hours. You know that, right? You can sit there on a font site and spend hours looking for type fonts. Well, do you charge for that? Well, yeah. Okay. I mean, reasonably. Okay, you can't charge for 15 hours of looking for a font, okay? But you've got to incorporate that. Illustrations. Are you hiring somebody out? Are you doing it yourself? Okay. Photography, same thing. And then we get into this area of color. Okay, and I will tell you, I've spent hours on messing with color versions. How about if this is blue? How about a little lighter blue? How about blue and yellow? How about blue and orange? How about, right? So all of these things, you have to estimate how much time are you putting into it. Now, usually what we do is we estimate time for ideation. We say we are going to spend 15 hours on ideation. And it really is a discipline on your end to make sure that you don't spend more time. Because it's so easy to spend 15 hours. I mean, that's not a lot of time to cover this stuff here. Not only that, you're supposed to come up with 3 ideas, typographic ideas, illustration, photography, color versions, right? 15 hours goes by really fast. So that's something to really think about. And then it's like the final presentation. How am I going to present this to the client? Am I going to meet with them? Am I going to set it up digitally and show them in a format online? How long does that take to set up? Okay, the actual setting up of the PowerPoint presentation or whatever, however you're going to do it. Maybe you're going to send it to them, through adobe.com. You're going to watermark things. Make sure that that's okay. And then it's the final execution. Okay, so far, you're adding up time for all of this. You're in your studio and you're writing it down and you're thinking, okay, so many hours for this, so many hours for that. Then the final execution. What is it going to take to produce a final version? Well, one of the things that's nice in the digital age is the fact that we are actually showing a client the final, right? There's not much that we're probably having to do to the version that we show them to the final. It's already digitized. It's done. It's perfect. It's not like the old days where we'd do marker comps and show them. And then after the marker comps, we'd actually have to do the final production, which would be real tedious inking and things like that. No, this is already done. But there might be some revisions in here between what we show them and the final execution. So we have to figure, like, how much time is that going to be? What are the revisions? Are there going to be some? So we have to figure that, and we do pad for revisions. Now, how much time you pad for revisions is kind of hard to estimate. But I would estimate, on a logo, that there's probably going to be about, honestly, I think there's going to be about, 10 to 15 hours of revisions on any given logo. If they like it, straight out of the box, man, more power to you. Okay, and then the final delivery. Now, if it's print, that means that it has to be sent to a printer, or you're sending it to your client and they're going to take care of the printing for you. That's great. That's kind of the way I would prefer it, but a lot of times they want you to deal with the printing. So that means you got to call up, you've got to fill out the forms for gotprint.com. You've got to send them the JPEG or the PNG or whatever, that file. You have to you have to deal with them and so forth. So that takes time. If it's a website you've designed, you have to upload that website to the server, and that could take hours to do. You have to make sure it works. You have to test it in browsers. I don't mean to discourage you in any of this, but all I'm trying to do is bring to your attention some of the things that will occur that you might not be thinking about in your estimate of time. And then the administrative paperwork. Okay. How long did it take you to write that estimate, to set up that contract, to write those change orders, to create the invoice, to email things back and forth? Those are all things that would be considered administrative work. And I said paperwork here only because back in the days it was actual physical paper that we had to, print out and send to clients, fax it to them or mail it to them or whatever. So these are all the things that are part of your time estimation, which ends up going to this question: how much is it going to cost? Now, so you can see that you can't just answer this question, when a client asks you, hey, come on, give me a ballpark, right? We have no idea of what we're, and don't give them a ballpark. Because like I said, once you lay out a price to anybody, once anyone gives you a number, that is the number that will stick in your head. It always happens that way. The minute someone says, I could do that for about, $50, that's what you expect. So you want to follow that whole ideology and philosophy of under promise and over deliver. Okay. Over deliver in terms of maybe your fee. If you can't over deliver in your fee, then over deliver in your service. Okay, give them more service and they'll come back to you, but over deliver in some aspect of it. Over deliver could be that you cut, $100 off the total cost of the job. They'll like that. They'll come back to you. Over deliver means you gave them an extra something. Okay. Not only did I give you this version, but I also gave you this version and this version. Okay. No charge. And they'll love you for that. And they'll come back and call you. And be your annual client, which is what you want. You want clients that are going to come back to you and give you business. You want to search out clients that have business that is continuous. So it's okay to do a logo, but when you do a logo for a small company, chances are you're never going to do work for them again because they're small and they don't really need you for much. But if you do a logo for a larger company or a medium-sized company, then there's all kind of things that logo needs to go on. There's all kind of things that additional things that they might need for you to design. So think of your marketing as targeting companies that can give you that kind of money or that kind of business. Okay, so in terms of ethics, money is the most important part of ethical business practices. And we want to be responsible. We want to be honest as we can. And we want to just get this out of the way. That's as best as I can put it. We need to get this out of the way so that we can start business fresh and with a good conscience and knowing that this is not going to be an issue. Okay, so hopefully you will do this, and your work will be your experience with the client will be good. Now, I have a discussion question that I pose to you for tomorrow, which I'd like you to, let me go there, to discussions. And it's going to be discussion 4. And what I'd like you to do is just write maybe a couple of short paragraphs on your feelings about this whole idea of, pricing. There's a video again. Well, let me talk about that in a sec. But it says, what is your opinion about pricing design? Okay, I want to know what your opinion was, say, before I even talked. Okay, this is what my experience, but I don't want you to think that this is just the way I think. I've worked for many companies in my career, and they all work this way. Okay, so that's all I can tell you. You can either believe that or not, but I do want to say that this is standard business practice, and I think it makes sense to you because you've experienced that with other companies that you've done business with. It's the same thing. It's the way business is done here in this country. But I want to know, up until now, how did you think pricing worked? I mean, how did you price your work, if you did do freelance? And how comfortable are you in talking about this to your client? Honestly, when I was first starting out, I was very uncomfortable about it because I didn't know how. Nobody ever gave me this lecture, really. Or maybe they did, and I just went through one ear and out the other, in college, as many things do. But, how comfortable do you feel? And you will get better at this, believe me. You will get, you will do this with the utmost confidence after a while. How do you determine your pricing structure now? And does it include the value that it has for your client in the long run? Okay. Now, this is something that this video is going to address. This is something I did not talk about today. We didn't talk about cost in terms of the value for that company. And when you design a logo, especially like a logo, you are designing branding. You are creating their brand visually in a logo. And how much is that worth to a company? Okay. Designers really ask themselves that in terms of their pricing. Now, if it's you know, Joe and Martha's dry cleaner that you did a logo for, you know, in a strip mall next to Ralph's, okay, how much value does that logo have for that business? Well, you know, it might have, you know, I mean, in terms of dollar amounts, okay, that's a rhetorical question. But if you designed a logo for, you know, Nike, how much value does would that have to a company? Okay, that's an entirely different conversation. And actually, what happened was it was designed for $35, if you read the story about that. And Nike ended up later on, after they became a multi-billion-dollar company, probably, went to Carolyn Davidson, I think her name was, and gave her stock options in Nike, which ended up, you know, she became a multimillionaire with Nike stock. And they did her right, okay? They did the right thing by doing that. But that is something that a design firm would definitely take into consideration, the value of that job for that company. And Chris Doe, who is going to be the person that narrates this or moderates this video, is going to talk a lot about how that's done in terms of how his business does that. Okay, but I want you to answer some of these questions as best you can, okay? And I just kind of want to know, you know, where you were, where you are with this, and, you know, what your thoughts are. It's just a discussion. It's not, there's no right and wrong to this discussion. Now, if you go to quizzes here, okay, I did not post this quiz yet, but this quiz, I'm going to post it. In fact, I'll publish it right now. Okay, so now it should be on your canvas. And it is a quiz that I'm going to ask you guys to take for Sunday's assignment. It's a very short quiz. There's only 5 questions here. But the most important thing is not the quiz necessarily, it's watching the video. And this is the video that I want you to watch. It's called Pricing, Design Work, and Creativity. And it is from the Future website. And I highly recommend that you as designers subscribe to this channel. He is a very articulate, well-spoken designer. I think he's a little kind of egotistical and, you know, thinks of pretty highly of himself, but that's okay. I like people like that. I like people that have that edge to them, that think they're pretty good, because they have a lot to say, and they're very opinionated. And his videos are just, I've learned many things from watching his videos, but this one is how much do you charge for a logo? And he talks about this idea of value, you know, pricing it based on the potential value for that company. And I think you'll be very surprised at, you know, how this all works. And, you know, maybe you'll incorporate it in your strategy, your pricing strategy. After you watch this, there's a 5-question quiz that you can take, and which kind of basically goes over the video, and the quiz is just, did you watch it or not? I mean, you couldn't answer these questions without watching the video. And I don't mean to throw these type of quizzes on you, but I do think that this is very informative. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Also, I wanted to, I noticed the submissions that you did for the business forums, and I made some comments on that. Hopefully, I was hoping that you would all kind of design this form rather than kind of slap your logo on a page and just slap down the existing text from that form, which it seems like many of you did. Cindy actually kind of designed it into her own look, which I appreciated. I don't know if you the reasoning behind that, but the point is that, come on guys, I mean, this is your career, man, do a better job. in this. Don't just slap down a logo and use somebody else's verbiage. Okay, design the damn thing. All right, okay, make it look good. Now, if you're having trouble with layout, and layout is something that over the 28 years that I've taught, or however long, layout has been one of the toughest things to teach students. You know, where do things go? What size should they be? Um, that is very, especially typographic layout. Um, it's very difficult because there's so many different ways to do it. And there's so many different fonts out there. There's so many different, layout types. And layout is something that develops over time, over your career, but it really takes a lot of observation to do good layout in order to be better in laying out things. Design. Design, when you hear design, a lot of people think of design as layout. Wow, that looks good, so it's a good design. Not necessarily. A good design is functional. Okay, you can have a beautifully laid out piece of paper, or website that does not function, that just totally sucks. So I would say that design sucks. Okay, no matter how good it looks. Just like you can have a great looking car that doesn't work. Okay, so design is much more than layout, but layout is something that visually we attach to immediately. We look at something and we go, wow, that's cool. I like that. And that is something that you have to really have keen observation with in your career. You have to always look at stuff. When you look at things and you see good layout, you have to remember it. Okay, and so to help you with that, I could tell you how I would design it. Okay, but that doesn't really help you. That gives you one person's idea. I don't know if you watch TV or not, but on TV lately, they've been running these commercials for Canva. I don't know if you've heard of this software. It's called Canva. It's not software. It's an internet-based design tool. And I've used Canva with my other school, only because they don't have access to Adobe programs. And when I can't teach a class, if I have to teach a class where students can't use InDesign or Photoshop, I'm stuck. So when the pandemic came out, we went to Canva. And here is Canva. And it's canva.com. You have to create an account, so do so. And if you don't use Canva, and there's no reason to use Canva for you guys because you have Adobe stuff, but hey, if you don't have Adobe, if you're on your mom's computer, and she doesn't have Photoshop, or if she doesn't have InDesign, you can still do a quick poster, flyer, logo, whatever in Canva. Anyway, I'm not here to explain to you how Canva works. I think you can pretty much figure this out. It's really simple to use, but what I like about it for students is up here where it says templates. Now, I'm not a big template user. I don't like to use templates because as a designer, I kind of think of that as an insult. Why use a template when I'm a freaking designer, right? I should be able to design this myself. It's, why use someone else's template? But templates give us an idea of different ways of doing things. And that's what I like. So I still look at templates all the time. And I go to templates here. Now let's take a look at some, I'm just going to go to resumes, okay? Now what do we think? Before I click on this, what do you think a resume looks like, right? It's just a standard drab piece of text on a page, right? If I asked you to submit a resume based on what you guys turned in the last assignment, you would just give me text on a page, know? No, look at this. Okay, so I'm going to click on resumes. Did you ever think of doing this kind of stuff?
I've always thought about it. I just didn't know if I should.
Yes, you should. Okay. Look at some of these ideas. Now, I'm not saying that they're all good. I'm not saying that you should like them. All I'm saying is that this gives you an idea of typographic layout that's not just text on a page. And you're going to have to visualize your logo here, and maybe I set the information like this with rules going across. And now once you look at an idea, now you're going to really drill down into it and see what size type are they using, how are they laying it out, 3 columns, bold headings, caps, lowercase, bullets, all of those things, all the real subtleties of what makes good typography work. Okay? And you really want to present your work this way. You want to have your, this is all typography. And yet it's done in a way that the normal, lawyer or accountant wouldn't do. you know, this is designed by graphic designers. And they have many different ways of, this is very interesting. This gives off different feelings of their personality. Are they minimalists? Are they kind of traditional? Are they, and this is the way you can express this. Look at this one over here. It's white against black. Now, we were always taught typographically not to do that, but it gives a very modern kind of minimalist sense of what's happening today. I could just almost, if this was sent to me, I could almost imagine the person behind this, and their portfolio. It's kind of very minimalist, dark, very, modern, like that. Okay. Now, I'm only giving you this as a source for inspiration. Okay, Canva, I think, is a good source for inspiration. We can come up to templates and we can come down to business cards. And there are many ideas of business cards. Okay, the way that logos are presented on a business card. Now, what you're seeing a lot of these days, almost exclusively, is the utilization of both sides of a business card. Not only the front, but the back, because they're so cheap to print these days. Some are strictly typographic. Some have background patterns, background colors, different designs, things like that. But they all have different kind of feelings. And, when you look at this, you kind of go, there's really nothing unique that I can do. I mean, just about everything has been done before. But the one thing about this is that a lot of these are done in a very, kind of clean way. I'm going to click on this one just for a sec. And I'm going to see that this is the front of the card and this is the back of the card. And you can see that there's a typographic sense here that works. Okay, it's nicely done. Large text, all caps, spaced out, letter spaced out, a bar that goes across that brings your eye to the main address, sans serif typeface, caps and lowercase, each line being independent of each other, so we don't have things breaking, into two lines that shouldn't break. We have the blue, that's now the blue of the text, the white, which is the white of the text, so we have this back and forth thing moving here. These are the things that you're analyzing when you look at this. Now, you might not, you might look at this just for color ideas. You might say, wow, I don't really like this layout. I have another idea, but I like the idea of a dark background and, doing whatever color the background is in the type when you flip the card over. So these are things that you can use to, get ideas from. Here's one where they actually use the photograph. They're interior designers. Not really crazy about using a photograph, but again, this is kind of the front and back. So you can go through these things and kind of get some ideas. Now, that's just business cards, but you can see brochures, newsletters. I mean, whatever you're doing, here's some brochure ideas. Okay, lots of different, and you've seen these templates all over the place, but this gives you an idea. Look at this one here, okay? These are threefold brochures. So this is the inside and this is the back side. When you fold this all up, this becomes the cover panel, just this panel right here. And you go to the inside and it looks like that. Typographically, you can see the type choice, bold against a dark background, and so forth. Okay, so I think the point is made in terms of I think Canva is a great source. Also, Adobe has many templates that you can access, but the main point is design your things, make them look good. You're a designer, okay? Don't just do what anybody else would do, because what's the point in that? Um, uh, you know, even small changes of color, you can use the same idea. I mean, most of what I've done in my career, honestly, if you would probably find that layout here somewhere. And there have been many layouts that I've used that were emulated other layouts. Okay, um, so okay. So with that said, do that. Have that ready to go. Have that. I'm not requiring that as assignment. I'm kind of like the Phil Jackson of teachers. If you know Phil Jackson's philosophy of coaching, the Zen master. Okay, I really believe, and I'm constantly telling Carly that I believe that you all will succeed when you decide you want to succeed. Okay, when you make that decision that I want to learn, you will learn. Because I'm telling you, man, there is plenty of resource out there for you to learn. You can learn anything you want to learn. Okay, you can go on YouTube and learn any trade. You can learn how to fix your sink and garbage disposal and rewire your house and all of that if you want to. Okay, if you really want to. And the same is true with graphic design. There's so much out here that is there for the taking if you want to learn. So that will be the key. And I can't make you want to learn. I can give you inspiration, hopefully, but and show you kind of paths to different ways to find information. But you guys are all potential. I never thought anyone cannot do this. We're all creative people. That's one thing that I honestly believe, that we all have creativity. No matter what people say, and I've heard so many people who go, "Oh, you're so creative. I'm just not creative." And right there I go, wrong. You are creative. Okay? You just haven't harnessed it yet. That's all. Okay? But when you do, you'll see how creative you are. Now, okay, so I'm done talking. But I do want to kind of use this as a very short segue into our next module, which is going to be drawing. Okay, you're in the life drawing class in your next module. I believe so. Let me just check this out real quick. Oh, it hasn't been published yet. But I was under the assumption that you were, well, check, I haven't seen the class yet published. They haven't published the class, but we got a preview of our next classes. And I think Carly mentioned this morning that you guys might be in the figure drawing 2 class. Have you had 2 figure drawing classes?
Yes,
I have.
You have already?
Yeah.
2, both? Okay, then you won't
Yes, sir.
be in that class. I'm sorry. Okay, so forget what I was going to say. But what I was going to say is that no matter how much you might not like drawing, it is something that it's something that teaches you many things. But I won't go into that because you already took those classes. Okay. So do you guys have any questions? Take the answer the discussion question, and then when we meet again on Thursday, I'm going to still talk more about business ethics, probably another topic that we'll talk about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I also want you to come with questions, with any questions you might have. I know it might be hard to, you know, think of questions, and I could force you to come up with questions, but what questions do you have? I know some of you are not into doing work on your own or having your own business. Maybe one day you might, but any questions you have, even in terms of job searching, job hunting, portfolio, content, uh, you know, I had a lot of questions when I was in college. I had so many questions to ask my professors. Uh, you know, even in a field that I wasn't sure, you know, what it was about, but I knew that I wanted to do this somehow, some way. And I wanted to know, I had this insatiable hunger to find out what this business was about and what it took to, you know, uh, my first boss, you know, the Ray Engel, he really talked to me a lot about a career in this and working for a good company. And he knew a lot of people that were in town. So he said, if you don't work for me, he said, if you don't like working for me, he says, no problem. He says, I don't take it personally, but I can recommend many good designers that you could work for that would teach you a lot of things and that you would really grow in your career. And I really appreciated that. So,
I gotta find myself a wrangle.
yeah, I know. Well, you know, if I can do anything to lead you in that direction, I will certainly do so and help you in that. Uh, but yeah, there's a lot of things happening in the Inland Empire that are right here. They're right here. Um, join the the Addies um, and search that out. Okay. Anyway, that is all for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I guess I will see you guys Tuesday
Thursday.
Tuesday or Thursday?
or Thursday. I'm sorry.
Oh, like I was like,
Yeah.
wasn't
That,
it?
yeah. On Thursday. Okay. You guys take care.
All right.
Have a nice
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.